I'm alive. I'm live. Oh, I'm so nervous. It's been like 10 seconds and no one's here. Let me quit things that make noise. So I'm back from Bits, and Bits was quite enjoyable. I liked Bits a lot. I hope that I get to go back next year, regardless of where it is. Who knows where it'll be? I know that right now they kind of rotate between a few different places. So it's like Telford, London, Manchester. Last year was London. This year was Manchester. So I don't know if it'll be back in Telford. Though I hear there's not much ado in Telford, England. So who knows? Maybe they'll find something else, somewhere else to do it, where there's more going on. I ran out of stickers while I was there. I had to get new stickers. I ordered much more this time. Many more stickers. I actually have to send some out to people. I don't know. And I have fun secret swag coming that will hopefully be here in time for I got a pre-con in Madison, Wisconsin in at the beginning of the month, next month, on like the 6th, I think. So I'm going to be off to Madison, Wisconsin to talk more about SQL Server. I'm going to see my friend Joe Obish, who lives out there. Be a good time for everyone, I hope. I still haven't been able to shave off the mustache. My wife decided that she likes it. Yeah, keeping it on for now. I was going to shave it off. My wife was like, keep it. You look good. I was like, I don't think so, but you said so. You know, what the hell? What's the worst thing that happens? I have a mustache. Where I live, it's not the weirdest thing in the world for someone to have hand and neck tattoos and a mustache. Stick with it. See how things go. Who knows? Maybe this mustache will get me into some trouble, get some hijinks, have some adventure in my life. The mustache adventures. Food crumbs, more like leftovers. Yes. Well, you're talking to a guy who has had food on his glasses on several occasions, so food in a mustache wouldn't be too outlandish. Wild stuff out there. All right. What was I going to say? Been working on some fun stuff this week. Found some fun deadlock things. And the deadlocks were all related to cascading foreign keys. And many of the cascading actions, cascading deletes more specifically, many of the cascading actions didn't have supporting indexes for the foreign keys. So there's like these giant clustered index scans on like hidden away in foreign key cascading actions, which is quite interesting. And I've been writing some weird queries against the SentryOne repository database. So like some of the stuff that's not available in the GUI yet is like hidden away in the table. So I've been writing stuff against that. I want to blog about it, but I'm not sure where the blog post is going to end up. I don't know. Depends on what Aaron Bertrand thinks about my query. See where that goes. Oh, fun stuff there. Getting emails from people about stuff and things. And someone ask a question, because I'm just sitting here babbling to myself for the last 5 minutes. If no one has questions, I'm just going to go put my head down, because I have a terrible sinus infection, in case you can't tell. My face feels awful. Worse than it looks, I guarantee you. Any recommendations for automated ERDs other than database diagrams and SSMS? Well, SSMS is got rid of those. They've been deprecated. As soon as you move to SSMS, I think it's version 18, they're gone. I think Toad makes a pretty good one. Richie used to have a lot of good recommendations for these. So if you're on Twitter and you want to bother Richie about it, then I would say, hey Richie, what's good for database diagrams? Because he used to use those a lot for stuff. Me, I just model everything after the Stack Overflow database. Yeah, and that's why they're getting rid of them, I guess, because hardly anyone uses them. And everyone I know at some point in their life has opened up Management Studio, went to click on something and accidentally clicked on database diagrams. You get that pop up like, there aren't any diagrams. Do you want to make some? And you're like, no, I didn't want that at all. I would like the opposite of that. I would like no diagrams. So I had something kind of funny happen the other day where I went to the archery range and I was shooting for the first time in like months, and I did not move my arm out of the way in time, and you can't really tell all that well because of the tattoo and everything, but there's this big bruise going down my arm and it's swollen as hell because a bowstring caught it. So a lot of fun there. Let's see. Josh asks, how would you explain CX consumer weights to someone that is so new? Well, CX consumer is like like the leader of a gang, right? So you have, let's say that you have a .4 query running, and you have 4 worker threads going to go out there and do gang stuff, go out there do some crime, right? Doing awful things out there to good law-abiding citizens. So you have people, you have these 4 gang members that are out there doing awful things, and that one coordinator thread is the gang leader, and he's waiting for them to come back and hear their stories. That's CX consumer. CX consumer is the gang leader, and he's waiting on all the other gang members to finish doing things, to come back from their nefarious deeds and activities. So he sends them out, and they go out and do things, and then, well, those four people are out there doing stuff. CX consumer is racking up, saying, "Come on, man, hurry up, bring me my money." Psh, psh, psh. Smacking people around. Zane says he used it once and it didn't work so well. I agree. that has never worked so well. So let's all agree not to use that ever again, because that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. Let's see. I made foreign keys in production unknowingly with the diagrams once. Wow. That's interesting. Because I'm assuming that didn't like it just created foreign keys and it didn't actually like index them or do anything helpful to support those foreign keys. Yeah, no, right? No, probably not. Yeah, that's a good time. That's a real good time. Yes, you're welcome, Josh. I have no other insight into that. I did blog a while back. Some guy you probably never heard of cite about when, because a lot of people said that CX consumer weights were not or something that you can ignore, and I disagree completely, because if you have a parallel query that is waiting on a lot of CX consumer, it can be, you'll have to excuse the crime scene back there. It can be what do you call it? Bad. It can be a sign of really, really terribly skewed parallelism. Julie asks, what's the best way to troubleshoot SSPI SPN errors? I skip right past troubleshooting and go right to the Active Directory people. And when I talk to the Active Directory people, I say, hey, Active Directory people, make sure that my SQL Server service accounts have the ability to delegate SPNs. I want them to specifically have that privilege so that I don't have to troubleshoot that error. I just know that my AD service accounts have that privilege available to them, and I don't have to think about it. There are like all sorts of, commands you can write to set, like DOS commands and PowerShell commands to like set SPNs manually. That's for the birds. I say, Active Directory person, please give my account the ability to delegate SPNs on its own, so I don't have to worry about that later, because I'll be damned if I'm going to remember all those commands. If anyone wants to be super helpful, the late, great Robert Davis had a blog post about troubleshooting SPN stuff. And if you feel like Googling that and putting the link in chat for me, that'd be great, because when I start doing that, I get all messed up. I don't have anyone to help me with that. I need all you to be helpers. Hugo says, at least you had foreign keys, better than most databases. I don't know. I almost disagree, because most of the time I'm not getting any great benefit from foreign keys. Like, it's nice to know the relationships, but I'm not seeing like, what do you call it there? Like join elimination, because how often are you like querying 2 tables and only selecting columns from one? And then, you load data in, or like you have to delete data, or like you have to update data or anything like that. And you go start checking all those foreign keys. It's for the birds, man. For the birds. Julian name was Robert Davis, Davis. His website is SQL Soldier something.com probably. But over there was a good write up on SPN type stuff. But like I said, you're much better off going to the AD people and just requesting the right permissions for your account, your service accounts. Let's see. Hugo says more often than you'd think through views. Views. What's up next? You have a lot of tricks up your sleeves. Hugo's got tricks. I hung out with Hugo at SQL Bits. Hugo's always fun to hang out with. Hugo was sitting in my session right behind Itzik Ben Gan, so it's just like no pressure. There I am, dressed up in a wife beater and light wash jeans, running around like a fool and staring at these two, and they're like the front row, like terrified. Like, please don't let me say anything dumb. Please don't let me say anything dumb. Zane says most of my work has been OLAP, and then FKs have not seemed necessary or beneficial. Yeah. Data warehouse foreign keys. I'm usually pretty steadfastly against those. You might be able to convince me in a few scenarios, but for the most part, if I see foreign keys in a data warehouse, I get nervous because especially if it's like a clear out and reload data warehouse where you're like not just like a trickle in, like a slowly trickling changing thing. If you're just like every night you're like wiping it out and reloading lots and lots of data in, foreign keys are gonna bite your butt hard. Not good there. If you like, data integrity should be done in the OLTP side. You shouldn't be doing data integrity in the data warehouse. That should be handled when you put data in, like in tiny little chunks. Let's see. What is that? Let's see. That's a long name there. I am working on an SSIS package that identifies non-matching records in a Progress DB and updates the records in Azure SQL DB. Would you create a new SQL DB for the Progress table and then use a lookup task, or is there a more elegant solution? I'm going to be very honest with you. I do not use SSIS a whole lot. If this is a new project and you have the luxury, I would try it every way that you think might be rational for you to go with, and see which one works the best. Lookup tables are certainly good for some. Man, there is someone out there sawing away. I hope it's not like a mass murder. I hope it's not like a chainsaw murderer, because that sounds painful. But yeah, I don't have a terribly good answer for that, just because of my lack of experience with SSIS. I'm not really sure what the workflow you have currently looks like and why you think the lookup table would be better. If you want to stick some more details, maybe some nice person in chat who uses SSIS a lot would chime in and save my skin from more babbling about things that I don't know. Oh my goodness. Let's see. I had an email question, or rather a Twitter message question this week about spools. And I'm waiting for the person to send me the query plan for it. But the question was, why do spools spool so much data? So like that was like the bottom line of the question. And the reason is that a spool doesn't just so a lazy spool doesn't just execute once. An eager spool will execute once, grab a whole bunch of rows, and then allow the parent operator to just kind of grab whatever it wants from that spool. Lazy spools execute lots of times, usually. You can tell by the rebinds and rewinds and executions. Well, actually, executions will be the total of rebinds and rewinds for a lazy spool. But for a rewind, that means you used data in the spool. And for a rebind, that means you went down to the child operators of the spool, ran those, and got a new set of data and brought that in to the spool. And the spools usually happen on the inner side of nested loops because it's very repetitive, right? It's a loop. It's the only join that loops. Hashes and merge joins, they go get data, jam that data together. Nested loops are like, I got some data, go look, got some data, go look, got some data, go look. So it gets very repetitive. And when the optimizer says, I think we could make this repetitive task less repetitive by reusing spool data, then it creates a spool of some kind, usually either a table spool or an index spool, and it populates it with stuff, usually data, and then it goes and uses that data. So for a table spool specifically, a lazy table spool, you'll get a value from the outer side of nested loops. Say, go spool this data for me. Usually, there's a sort in there at some point too. If your data isn't in index order, like of the way you're going to go look for it, the optimizer will usually inject a sort into the plan to make sure that when you go spool data in, that data is reused as often as possible, right? Because if you have like numbers 1 through 10, and you have 10 of each, it makes a lot of sense to order those from 1 to 10, like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, like and so on. So you get the 1, you go look for the 1, and then you can reuse the 1 9 more times. Then you get the 2, go get the data for the 2, and you can reuse the data for 2 9 more times. So that's why spools typically show a lot more rows coming out of them than going in or something like that. Let's see. Zane says you should get both as data flows, then use a merge, and then do conditional splitting. That's likely your best SSIS flow. Hit up a Q&A on dba.se and I'll help. Zane is always helpful. Zane is one of the most helpful human beings around. And he's right. That is a good question for dba.stackexchange.com, where you can go and add a lot more detail and put a lot more, give us some, what do you call it there? Screenshots. Everyone loves screenshots. Peter says, my rule for SSIS is to get data from A to B and leave logic outside the packages and solution. So I do tend to agree there, most specifically because when I want people to use SSIS, it's usually in place of linked server queries. And people will always do this awful thing where they're like, I've got a linked server. I'm just going to write a query. I'm going to write this fancy query, and I'm going to send like a big join condition, where clause, something like that, out across the linked server query. And it just never tends to end terribly well. There's also this nasty downside of linked server inserts where I believe they're row by row. So I usually just like to grab as much stuff like they're row by row. If you go from like one out, when you're bringing a bunch of data in, you can just dump stuff into a table, the query it locally, and you're in much better shape. So so when I want people to stop using linked server queries, I usually suggest that they use SSIS instead, because it is much less sloppy to go get data, especially if have SSIS off on another server. Go have it sit up there with its own resources and everything. Go grab data, push it around. It's nice. Nice way to do things. Not that I've ever done it, but I hear it's very nice. SSIS is an ETL tool, so why would you avoid transformation? Oh boy, getting religious in here. Yeah, I don't know. Don't ask me that. Hugo's on your case now, though. You better watch out. Better be real careful. Hugo won't let go. He'll be blogging about you. He will give you the what for on that. Let's see. Do we have any email questions coming in? I have a thank you email from SQLBits for attending. Yeah, you're welcome, SQLBits. That was a great time. I will always go to SQLBits as long as they have me. It's a fun conference, especially because I feel like it's a bit less stuffy than other conferences. They just do such a nice job of making it a fun and very friendly environment. And every year, I see they put these big pillows on the ground that people can just hang out in. And every year, I see at least like 2 or 3 people through the course of the event just like face down sleeping on pillows, like with their luggage next to them, or like wearing a backpack, just like laid out. It's amazing. I love it. Did you go sightseeing anywhere? So I spent a lot of my time at SQLBits with Panal Dawe, and that was a lot of fun. We went out to dinner a bunch. I also hung out with Andy Mallon and Randolph and our friend Joanna. It was a very good time. Sightseeing? No, not really. I'm not much of a sightseer, especially. My idea of sightseeing is to look at menus and like wine lists. That's my sightseeing. There's not a lot of sightseeing in Manchester. I don't think, at least where I was. It was funny being there because it seems like every trip I take, I have some piece of electronic equipment that just stops working immediately. Last year, it was my laptop power supply. I plugged it in at the first day of our pre-con. I plugged it in to the thing and plugged it into my laptop, and it started leaking. Like it wouldn't charge, and like this weird fluid that was like warm Vaseline just started leaking, like grease started cooking out, like cooking oil started leaking out of like the weird rectangle thing that's in the middle of every laptop power supply. So that was the year before last, and this year I had my travel power adapter. I plugged it in, and it made a pop noise, and that was the end of it. Nothing would charge in there, so I had to throw that out, and it took me a long time to find a new one. I walked around for like 45 minutes. I went to like every Sainsbury's and like electronics store that was around the hotel, and finally I walked into like a random pharmacy, and I was like, "Do you sell power supplies?" The guy was like, "Yeah, look at this one." I was like, "Perfect, I'll take that." And that one worked the entire time. It was great. Let's see. Didn't you tweet a picture of a literal sewage? Yes, that was a literal sewage canal. Well, it was. I mean, when the canal was full of water, it looks much nicer. But the first night I was there, I was walking around at night. I was walking back to the hotel, and I noticed that the canal was drained, and it just looked like there was just like garbage alley the whole way through. So I don't know. Max says, "Did Freddy end up making an appearance? Why didn't you watch my video yet, Max? It's available on the SQL Bits website. You can see for yourself. You can see me dressed up as Freddy with your own eyes." Let's see. A lot of talk about SSIS over in chat. I've seen it correctly version controlled in TFS, but it only lasted until I let one of my colleagues get his mitts on it. I've had tons of success doing source-controlled SSIS packages. I've even built a few semi-applications with SSIS. Wow! Holy smokes. You people do a lot with SSIS. I'm glad someone out there does, because it's not going to be me. I'm too old to learn these new tricks. Far too old. I gotta stick to boring stuff like the optimizer. TFS is great for source controlling SSIS and SSRS. That's the first positive thing I've heard about TFS. Usually when people talk about TFS, there's a long string of curse words either before or after, or like even in between the T and the F and the S. Usually the F and the S get replaced with some other things that are not so nice, not so family friendly. But yeah, it's funny to hear that. TFS is good for something. Finally, thank you, TFS. What a wild ride. Let's see. Any questions coming in on Twitter? No, not really. All right. Yeah, Manchester was a really good time. I went to there's a whiskey bar near the hotel called Britain's Protection, which was very, very good. They had 300 whiskeys, and I think we drank all of them at one point or another. There was a lot of that, and then a few nice restaurants. I had a burger in Manchester that was not disappointing. Usually in England, the burgers are not like Americans, like up to American standards for burgers, but this one was damn good. That was it. I quite enjoyed that. It was at a place called Almost Famous. It's very good. I would have that burger again. Someone keeps calling me. I'm not going to talk to them. No, thank you. I like that T-Mobile now tells me when there's a scam likely. Martin says Reds does good burgers in Manchester. Yeah, I heard that Reds is actually a really, really good barbecue spot, but I just didn't get a chance to go there. There was a lot of. I was hanging out with Penal most of the time, and he's vegetarian, so bringing him to a barbecue place would have been kind of rude. Like, here, have some sweet potato. Like, I got you some broccoli. But we went to I don't know, we went to a French place, we went to a Thai place. Everything was generally pretty good. Yeah, it's right, Zane. If you're getting a call, it's probably is a scam. Most likely is. Most likely is. The only people who call me when it's not a scam are to like tell me someone is dead or got arrested or something. So I'm like, I will like never pick up my phone. It's like never good news. It's always like someone needs money for something. All right, goodbye. There's some good mock meat barbecue places in London. Yeah, but we were in Manchester, so you know, the fake meat was what was locally available, unfortunately. Have I talked to you about your extended warranty? Man, I need one of those on myself. I need an extended warranty on myself. I get life insurance, but I need an extended warranty anyway. Martin says, so real meat. Yeah, real meat. It was all mostly real as far as I could tell. I would commute 4 hours to be vegetarian as long as there was a significant amount of alcohol during that commute. You would have to really, really get me lit to make that 4 hour trip worth it. If like if you want me to go 4 hours for peas, man, you would have to throw down for that. Isn't that called extended warranty in yourself? Isn't that called health insurance? Yeah, I guess so. That's what costs me a lot of money every month now. It used to cost a whole lot less when I had a real job, or when I had like a slightly more real job. It was my last fake job had good insurance. Now that I'm paying for it on my own, I have expensive with my self fake job. I have it's back to being expensive. So. Yeah, so Zane would have to get on the meat train for 4 hours to be a vegetarian. You sort that out yourself. I think northern trains are pretty heavily looked up as a rule. I didn't get on a train at all there. I took a cab to and from the airport. I took a plane out, and the rest of the time I walked around. I don't even think I took an Uber or anything, like within the city. I walked everywhere. I was up and down Deansgate so much that people probably thought I was a prostitute, showing my legs off on the street all drunk. There was one night I took a detour off Deansgate, and I walked through like shady Jack the Ripper style alleys. I walked by a casino, and I walked by a parking garage, and there was like a gang of kids drinking beer in the parking garage. And I was like, man, you are truly delinquents if you're drinking beer in a parking garage like that. You are truly, truly delinquent. You can always decide to migrate to the civilized world. Civilized world wouldn't have me, Hugo. I wish they would sometimes, sort of. If they would, I would move to. Well, my question, like whenever I am like, man, what do I want to do for work? My first stop is I look at like French job boards for any vineyards that need a DBA. Unfortunately, most vineyards are not too heavily reliant on SQL Server. So if I could find a vineyard that needed a DBA, you can bet I'd be out of here. Like, pay me whatever you want. Y'all don't need money. Just go hang out. You could almost pay my salary and mine at that point. I would be A-okay. So it's like vineyards and Scottish distilleries. If like Lefroy or Lagavulin or something needed a DBA, I would be out. Like, goodbye. Peter says, sounds like you should work with Chris. Yeah, I would love to, except I don't know anything about PowerShell. But maybe if she needed a DBA, then maybe. But she could take the PowerShell. I'll take the SQL Server. I could trade that task off. Hugo says, I'd beat you to it. Yeah, you probably would. You're much closer. You have a much easier walk. Much easier walk than me. Me, I'd be very slow at that. Very, very slow. But anyway, I don't know. Those would be my like what I would leave America for, is if Lefroy, Lagavulin, anyone in Chateauneuf-du-Pape If you're listening and you need someone to work on SQL Server for you, call me. I'm mostly available. Free 99 for you. Lovely, lovely people. Lovely, lovely people out there. All right. It's been a half hour. I need to go blow my nose and take some like Afrin or something. And it was lovely talking to you. Hopefully we'll all be here next week and we can do the same thing. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.